Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grassroots Racer. Often on the show, when I've spoken to past guests, there's a common theme of not having enough money to race and what it's like to be a grassroots racer and the struggle that many people have when they can't find the funds to keep racing or even progress further from a younger age. And I know how, frustrating this can be. So tonight's guest did not let this stop him following his passion, so it's so great to speak to someone who is so passionate and positive about making his racing dream a reality. So by hard work, getting out there, getting sponsors, he started to compete in time attacks in a very cool Toyota 86. So can't wait to talk to him about his journey so far. So it's a big welcome to Lachlan Wyeth. How are you tonight, Lachlan? And my first question is, so how did you get your passion for motorsport?
So I started to, funny enough, actually, is I lived overseas for 15 years, so I've always had a passion for motorsport ever since I heard about Formula One, supercars, and any other, category of motorsport. I literally started on Xbox 360 with the old Microsoft steering wheel setup. So that was the good old days. And then it just grew in the last 2 years into something more professional and well, in my case, it feels professional, but to others, it may not look it. But sponsors are a big thing in motorsport, especially when you're on the track, especially how you present yourself and how you go forward. And you've got to look after them, and if you look after them, they'll look after you. So it's a win-win situation. But how I literally started was 2 years ago, and I never thought this was possible at all. So I made something out of it that I'm super proud of and that my parents are proud of. I mean, the fact is, I was on TV last year on a series called Cool Cars, and I got selected for, I think it was like a 2 minute segment on, that's on Seven Demand. So for me, that's a boyhood dream. One, to have my own car on there, and then also to represent myself, my brand, and my sponsors all on the car was just incredible. So, and I started doing time attack. I started doing track days here and there, and the whole reason that I just wanted to get into the whole motorsport thing is there's just too much drama on the roads, and I don't I don't condone any of the negative behavior that a lot a lot of people bring to the car community, because it's kind of very upsetting that you see all these people doing burnouts and street racing, and they're endangering people's lives. I'd rather do it on a track. Yes, you have to pay a little bit of money for it, but you're not endangering someone else's life. You can go somewhere to have fun, and you're not going to get pinged for doing silly stuff. Within
Yeah.
the limits, obviously, of the track, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
It's just if you want to have a little bit of a hoot around, there's a place
exactly.
to do it. Uh,
Exactly. There's a place to do it, and there's a place not to do it. And a place
mm,
not to do it is a public road. And that's one of the core things that is different about me to others. I have people coming up to me asking like, "Oh, how'd you get sponsorship and how'd you do this?" And I'm like, "Well, I just was myself. I just presented myself to these brands. I showed them what I could potentially bring to them, and it just grew from there into relationships with all of those brands. And every single one of those relationships has just formed significantly. Like some of them are like AVO Turbo World. You've got Titan Suspension. You've got HRX, which makes all my race merch. You've got Wheel Pros through Motegi, which is a huge sponsor that supplies wheels. You've got Keith for Wheels that sets me up with alignments. You've got KCK Lubricants. You've got AK Racing. You've got Tintercar Milton that did the tint for free on my car. You've got Jet LEDs that was one of the core, companies that helped me create this dream. They installed things like the spoiler, the front splitter. The wrap was done by a previous wrap shop. I've got, my good friend Raphael, who looks after the detailing for the car. Called His business is called Revolution Detail, and I do all of this in the space of 2 years. It's just incredible, and it's still growing. Like the following and how people come up to me left, right, and center is just incredible. Like it's nothing I ever thought I'd be able to get to, and it just changed significantly. Like all these sponsors mean something to me. Same with you. Same with anyone who's in grassroots motorsport. Sponsors are such an important thing if you want to progress and move forward. And as I said, it's how you present yourself. It's how you can show them what you can bring to them and what they can get out of it. And if you get those three things right, you're going places. And some sponsors say no, some don't. And that's just how it works in real life. Not everyone's going to say yes. I could tell you, I've said, I've asked for sponsorship from this company or this company, but some of those companies will say no. And you just go, okay, well, how can I improve from this? And where can I go from there? Like I'm still in talks with tons of companies, but it's how you form those relationships with every single one of those companies. Like I can see on your podcast here, you've got like Pettis Suspension and you've got United. It's gone a little bit fuzzy, but that's okay. I can't read all the names, but sponsors like that help a long way. Just because of their branding and their image, it helps all of us in grassroots motorsport. And grassroots motorsport is a big thing for me because it's how literally I've started this passion to turn it into a professional career on the side of having a full-time job, because I still have a full-time job Monday to Friday from 8 till 4:30 every single day, and I use that funding to help fund my motorsport and servicing, repair bills, all that sort of stuff. So everything helps in a sense. Like I'll give you a perfect example, like KCK Lubricants, they supply lubricants. So that's one less thing off the bill. You've got Motegi Racing, who supplied a set of wheels for the track. So I've got a set of wheels for the track. I'm going to have a set of wheels for the street. So I can change in between those wheels. You've got all those modifications that AVO Turbo World have, provided, like with an amount of support they have given me is just next level. Like they've done an oil cooler, they've done a turbo kit in the car, they've done rear WRX brakes on the car so it stops better in cornering. You've got multiple suspension mods. You've got Titan Suspension, who installed the coilovers and provided those coilovers, and they've helped significantly on how my 86 handles on the track in cornering and going out of cornering. That's just to name a few. But every single sponsor, as I said, plays a huge part. So I hope I'm not dragging on or anything. So
At the end, if you want to, I'll let you spiel off the rest of it.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
It's what we always do here because it's Grassroots Motorsport show. We gotta let the guest talk about their sponsors, because without them you can't do it. So it's really important.
110%, mate.
When you were younger and you were interested in motorsport, did you actually have an idol growing up?
Yeah, funny enough, I actually had two idols. I had Michael Schumacher, and I had who was the other one? It was Mark Webber, and then I also had in supercars. I had I actually can't remember who it was in supercars. I think it was no, I've lost who it was, unfortunately. Sorry, but Michael Schumacher was a major. Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't supercars. It was Formula One. It was Kimi Räikkönen. So pretty much all Ferrari based. Like I'm a very massive Ferrari fan. Obviously, they're not doing too well in the moment in Formula One, with Red Bull just riding them over every single Grand Prix. So hopefully that changes. But I looked up to them every single time, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to do test drives in the latest, supercar or sports car, for example. Stuff like that, like doing advertisements for Shell or all the companies that they were working with during that time. Schumacher was a phenomenal driver, but you've also got the most idol person I looked up to is Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna taught me the key fundamentals of driving a car on a track fast within my limits. And as the saying goes, if you're not going for a gap, you are no longer a racing driver. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's true.
Yeah, Ayrton Senna, as he liked to be called, he was like very big on taking all the opportunity
Yeah,
that you get while you're out on the racetrack. So he certainly
exactly.
wasn't wrong. But it's something that's very tricky to do, to know your limits on the racetrack. Because even
Yeah,
he had an accident once and he claimed
yeah.
the barrier moved. And he was
Mm.
actually proven right. So when they went and checked it, so he's certainly correct about knowing your limits. And Michael was very the same. He took a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
um, he made sure he was always on the limit, and they were always pushing the boundaries, which is something you don't see much these days. Lots of the guys, they sort of get little bit sooky, where back then they were very, they'll test their limits and see what they could get away with.
Oh, 110%. I mean, there was countless times where, it's either Ayrton Senna or it was Michael Schumacher or it was Kimi Räikkönen or it was David Coulthard or it was a number of those drivers that would test the limits of other drivers. I mean, back in the day, Formula One, you had a spare race car with, for every single team nearly. Nowadays, you got one car. If you bin it, they got to rebuild that car.
Mm.
And I mean, you've got drivers like Sebastian Vettel who became a multiple time world champion, and his first ever team that he raced for in Formula One was Toro Rosso, and he won. I can't remember what Grand Prix it was, but he won that Grand Prix in Toro Rosso, and everyone then saw him, and he just became a sensation after that, just a champion for Red Bull, and he won Grand Prix with Ferrari. So
Yeah,
it's the same thing with anyone. If it's such a sad thing as well, it's because you've got Lewis Hamilton who's become an ultimate driver, and then everyone just starts hating him because there's things that he probably shouldn't be talking about in Formula One, and then there's other things that For me, I like to keep my personal life and my motorsport life completely separate because
yeah,
if you let it get in the way, it can also have a negative impact in some respects. There's got to be a limit to that. Like, no disrespect to any of what any of those drivers have done or anything, but there's also got to be a level where you keep your personal life and your motorsport life completely separate to make sure you focus on the end goal. Same with you, obviously, and same with me. So,
yeah.
anyway,
Well, yeah. When you're a racing car driver, especially at a grassroots level, you gotta be a brand. You gotta be
yeah.
what people want to see. So, if you start expressing very outrageous opinions that you personally believe, which don't need to be out there, it can turn south pretty quickly. But I have a question that I'm
Yeah, go
introducing
for it.
onto the show. Are you Ford or Holden or Camaro?
Oh, honestly, that is a hard one. Look, I like the new cars, but I feel the older cars, especially the Falcons and the Holdens, they just had that little bit extra of a special touch. You know, I can see that there's obviously parity issues and everyone's talking about it. Everyone's going, oh, supercars is going down the drain. Look, they're trying to fix it. They can only go so far. They had to move with the times. Holden isn't around now, unfortunately, because GM booted them. And Falcons aren't around anymore because they're obsolete. We've now got the Mustangs, and look, the Mustangs were fantastic when they came in, and so were the ZB Holdens. I really wish that Holden was still around because I think they have made an unbelievable image. I mean, look at the price of some of the Holden performance cars that are around now. They're just $250,000 for a Maloo, which is just insane. But that's just because of how special a Holden is. And funny you say that is, I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I read or saw online that someone in the Netherlands has a Holden Maloo. They got it shipped from Australia to Europe and then it got through customs and they now drive that as their daily car, which is just shows how much of an image the Roaring Lion did for a lot of people. But for me personally, it's a hard decision because I like the Fords and I like the Holdens. So if I had to really pick, I'd honestly say Holden.
That's
It's
fair enough.
it's just yeah. How about you?
Ford.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's all changed now. You know, when Scott Lachlan was around, I was an absolute fan for him. You know, he was just a weapon behind the wheel,
Mm.
and now he's in IndyCars. So,
Yeah. You could also say the same about SVG though. Like
oh
he does
yeah,
a lot of racing. Just in general, he does rallies,
oh yeah,
speedway. He
oh
does so
yeah,
much that he's just a perfect driver in a
oh
sense. But with good drivers, you also need a personality. So you either get really good personalities, bad driver, or good driver,
yeah.
bad personality. So it's like a
It's a
bit of a
hard,
scale.
it's a really hard thing. And the whole thing about grassroots motorsport is you're out there representing all these brands. So you do one thing wrong, it falls back on you really, really hard.
Yeah,
And that's the sad thing. But it also you go, okay, how can I learn from this? How can I not make that same mistake again? And some people don't ever get that chance to do that again. I mean, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. Last year, or it was the year before, there was a Formula One driver or Formula Two, no, not Formula One, Formula Two or Formula Three driver doing a gaming stream on Twitch, and he said racial words out loud on Twitch, and Red Bull just ripped up his contract.
mm,
One, because if they didn't do anything, people then go, "Oh, okay, so you're now supporting racial discrimination against certain, you know, races of ethnicity."
mm,
And the other one is you just don't say that stuff online.
mm.
And the other thing is just if you are going to do something as silly as that, I wouldn't be streaming online
Yeah,
personally. It's difficult. Like I would never do something like that, but it's difficult because you're at the pinnacle of your league in motorsport, and then you've gone and done a very, very, very stupid thing, and you've now had your contract ripped up by Red Bull, who's a super energy drink company, same as Monster Energy, same as Rockstar. You've got all these energy drink companies that look up to motorsport stars and athletes, and they do something wrong, they get booted
mm,
straight away. I mean, I've seen multiple things of people making silly comments on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, even a like on the wrong post, that can go the whole wrong way for you. I think it happened to a NASCAR driver a couple of weeks ago. He got sacked from his race team, or he got banned from a race or something. I mean, that sort of thing, it's just so hard nowadays with social media because social media, as me and you both know, is a
mm.
super, super powerful tool. And it can
Yeah,
be used for the right reasons and it can be used for the wrong reasons. And that's really hard with grassroots, is because you've got to protect your image. You've got to make an image. You've got to make a positive image. You've also got to make content that's engaging with all those people. If you don't make engaging content, you're not going to get followers. You're not going to get people who are interested in you. People will lose interest very quickly. You'll start thinking, am I really, terrible at this? Can I be doing this? And you'll start having all that negative energy when you don't need to be doing that. You're just keeping yourself positive and engaging. And that's pretty much who I am. I'm a very positive and engaging person, as you can tell clearly. And so many people know that I'm a very positive, engaging person. Like, I don't see anything negative. The fact that I'm on here talking to you is just unbelievable. And the fact that I'm going to be online for people to see is just incredible again.
yeah,
So I really want to thank you for that opportunity.
that's fine.
Hmm.
Yeah, and obviously it's great for you to come on here and share your motorsport experience. But if I'm correct, your car that you drive or you race, is that also your daily or one of your
Yeah,
road cars?
yeah, correct. So everything on that car is road legal. Everything on that car. So there's not a single modification that is on there that is illegal. So I did everything correctly. So I'll give you a perfect example. Turbo kit, blue plated. I did the brakes, blue plated. Intercooler, blue plated. Everything on that car is legal because also I'm representing sponsors, you know, on the road,
Mm.
constantly to and from the track. So, people are overtaking me, trying to, have engage with me in the wrong way, trying to race me in their, cars. And I don't, I ignore them because I have a brand to represent. I also have sponsors to represent, and those sponsors help me fund my career in motorsport, and so does my family. And if I did the wrong thing, I don't think I would be in it very, very long. So I keep this fast driving to the track, and I drive like a granny on the road. So, yeah, that's the perfect way that I could give you an example. So,
No, definitely. And can you tell us a little bit about the series that you race in?
yeah. So the series I race in is called Time Attack Queensland. It's run by Paul Rosick, who's an absolute legend. So I just want to give him a massive shout out for that. He runs a series that's just, it's all about time based. So you've got to get the quickest time. So there's multiple cars on track at once, and they're all in classes. So you've got club spec, you've got forced induction club spec, you've got naturally aspirated club spec, you've got street class, you've got extreme class, which is electric cars, and then you've got full on race cars that are, full on stripped out. With every class has certain rules. So in street class, you're not allowed to do brake caliper upgrades to your car from another car, for example. But you can in club spec. So there's certain rules in every single class to keep it very competitive and, everyone happy pretty much. Because if there was no rules, then everyone would whinge with each other. But as I said, Time Attack is fantastic because they're always coming up with new ideas. We have King of QR that happens every single year. So King of QR is a massive day where it's run at Queensland Raceway, where you run the sprint layout, the clubman layout, the switchback, not the switchback, the sportsman layout, and the national. And all those times are added up into one time to see who will get the fastest time for the end of the day for all those classes. So there can only obviously be one King of QR every year. So it's whoever gets the fastest time throughout the entire day on every single track progresses. Sadly, obviously, I didn't this year, but that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, last year I was still naturally aspirated, and I got third place in my first ever year of doing Time Attack. And I mean, to me, to get us, even if it's a third place trophy, to me that just felt amazing because that just shows how hard I've pushed and excelled in what I do.
Yeah.
For a first year to be getting a trophy is just insane. Yes, it wasn't first place. Yes, it wasn't second, but that doesn't matter to me. It's still a trophy that's up there. And I mean, look, I'll even get it for you. It's something I'm super proud of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's got something sentimental, and that's super sentimental to me because, yeah.
And with every race car driver comes a story. So what was the story with you on the TV show?
Oh, so one day I got the call from my sponsor Motegi through Wheel Pros, and they said, "Hey, there's a segment being filmed for the show on cool cars. Would you like to be on it?" And obviously, I had a full-time job at that point, so I had to ask my boss. I'm like, "Hey, I've got this really cool opportunity. It's happening this Wednesday. I need you to kindly approve my annual leave," which they kindly did. And it went from there, and it was pretty much a whole day thing of shooting this segment, with the co-host Elise Elliott. So she's a car presenter, and she was fantastic to work with. She asked me a bunch of questions, but the funny thing is, before all that, there was a mix of cars there. You had an i20N, you had like 3 or 4 four-wheel drives that were like full-on lifted American style. and then there's just me and my little lady sticks. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I got any chance here. Because you go into those things thinking, you're not going to get picked. And a lot of the time, you don't get picked to win something or have that good luck charm. But this time I did. And I was just blown away because I was also scared at the same time because I'm like, oh great, I'm going to be on national TV on every single channel, on 7, where someone could just click and watch me 24/7 if they wanted to. So I feel like that's really special that I got that opportunity to be in not just any episode, but the first episode that aired of Cool Cars. So that was something seriously special to me, that I got my own little segment. You know, Elise drove the car around, talked about it. We had a small conversation, but I talked about how sponsors are important, and obviously a lot of people saw that, and yeah, and my catchphrase now is "Don't put a scratch on it." So I just stuck with that because it's just cheeky, but it's also funny. So,
And
so yeah.
how did you find giving up the keys to it, letting someone else drive the
Oh.
car? Because I don't handle it well.
Oh, look, I was a bit nervous, but in the end, it was like, you're only just going to drive it over there, sort of thing. So, if anything happened to it, it's not, it's not on me. But that's where the "just don't put a scratch on it" came from, is because she didn't put a scratch on it. She respected me, she respected my car, and I respected her in the way that she would want to be respected, because she's a presenter for TV. So obviously, when you meet people like that, you don't know how you can engage with them. But I had a full-on conversation with her. I found out she had a Mustang, and she loves muscle cars. So, I don't see any electric car in her future yet, but she's got a full-on, I think it was a 1967 Mustang convertible that looks just unbelievable. And she gets to drive some insane cars that
Yeah.
I am so jealous of. I mean, there's probably cars out there that you're jealous that you don't get to drive. Like, there's a McLaren P1. I would love to drive that car. So,
And do you have any bucket list cars that you either want to A, race, or B, own, that's sort of in the seeable future?
oh God, honestly, there's just too many. But I would say I'd love to one day drive a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. That's just my end goal. Drive a Ferrari or Lamborghini GT3. I don't care what it is. Could be a track car. It could be for a race team. It would just be incredible. But the end goal would be to get into Super 2 or Super 3, or into one of the support categories that follow the supercars around, especially the categories that's growing to my appeal a lot is the Porsche Carrera Cup.
Yep.
Those things just sound incredible. Every single time I go to the Gold Coast, because I go every year to watch the Gold Coast 500, it's just insane. The gear changes that they're doing, how they accelerate, how they ride over those curbs, how they're literally curb hopping on two wheels. You see that with supercars as well, but the Porsches are just next level because, they're straight piped. They're fully straight piped, engines, and they just sound insane. And I'm really, really jealous that I get to drive one. But one day that opportunity might come. I mean, there's cars out there that you probably want to drive.
Well,
Do you got any?
Well, I just sort of like to take it as it comes, because I never thought I'd be racing Formula V when I was about 8 years old. So
Wow.
I'm racing Formula V now. I was surprised I made it out of go-karting, but I walked away very successfully from go-karting, jumped into Super Cup for 2 years. That was one of the best experiences I've had. Jumped into Formula V. It's not been the best for me at the moment, but it's still awesome that I get the opportunity to drive such an awesome race car, that I've virtually built myself.
Oh, exactly. And that's the whole thing. And I mean, you've probably got you've got sponsors behind you that support you with that. And, yes, as you just said, it's not been the best, start to your season, but you still have a passion for it, and you're not letting that get in the way of that.
Yeah.
And, you still got that, charm about you where you're going, yeah, it's been a bit, hit and miss, but I'll push through.
Yeah.
And that's the same with me. There's been days where I've been at the track where I'm going, I'm not feeling this today. The last track day I had at King of QR, a lot of people thought I did really well, but I told myself I did terrible. I did utter garbage to myself, because I want to keep that level where I'm going, I can do better. I can do far better than what I was doing. Like, I can brake later here. I can corner here better. I can not oversteer the car here where I did before. And you just got to get that level of focus that you see on TV with drivers. You see TVs on you see on TV drivers all wearing headphones, listening to music before they get in the car, or they're doing something before they get in the car to get in the zone. And that's something that I've been doing ever since King of QR, because I wasn't really impressed with myself. Yeah, I did a fantastic job. Like, I got the times that I sort of wanted, but I know I could have done so much better. But that just happens sometimes. Some days you're going to have wins, some days you're going to have losers, and some days you'll just have an in-between. And the thing about motorsport is, this is something that I actually found out from Greg Murphy, is, I asked him when the Shannon Nationals was on there 2 weeks ago, because I saw him up on one of the verandas, and I said, how's your son going? He said, terrible, absolutely terrible, because the car had been crap since they took it off the truck on the Friday. And you've just got to keep that level of confidence, because if you're saying, oh, I'm doing fantastic, you're never going to be able to improve, if that makes sense in a way. But without sounding negative to yourself, you go, okay, I could improve here, or I could improve here in this area. And that's why I started going to Norwell Motorplex. Because, one, they have driver coaching there to enhance and excel your skills on the racetrack. And the first ever time that I went there, I couldn't master this one corner. I would either lift off, or I'd brake too early, or I'd turn in too early, where the car spun out completely, as a perfect example. Second time I went there to get my circuit license, because that was a huge thing for me to get that. The double ASA and Motorsport Australia license was just incredible that I got that, and I mastered that corner. Every single time I mastered that corner. There was other key areas which I need to work on, but I'll work on those areas, and that's why I've got the simulator behind me, because I do iRacing online, to a level where I can. Is that the same with you? Have you got like a simulator at home where you practice?
Yeah. So I do all the simulators. I do iRacing, Automobilista, Assetto Corsa.
Yep.
I do it all. R Factor 2. I do it all.
Oh, yeah. I love R Factor 2. R Factor 2 is great. Also, you've got Assetto Corsa, Competizione. I mean, I've done that. I've done Forza Motorsport. Forza Motorsport's just about to release that new one. So I'm really keen to grab that. And funny that we've actually had this podcast, is I recently just saw the new Gran Turismo movie, and watching that, there were parts in it that I thought, this is exactly where I am right now, where he's on the simulator, he's driving, and next minute he's in a car, getting sponsors. And at some point I thought, it feels weird to say, but it feels very similar in a way, without sounding, like a top-notch person, but it didn't feel like that at all. It just felt very surreal that you went from a simulator to exactly what I was doing to a race car. Not in the same context, obviously, but it certainly felt like that. And the whole movie was just, great. It felt in certain parts of it so surreal that where I was like, oh, this is me in this area. Similarly. So have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got to. Got to see it.
Well, I will one day. And do you want to quickly have a quick chat about your sponsors, and and then we'll also tell the viewers where to follow you on social media.
So I mean, I've got my sponsors. I've just got Avio Turbo World Global. I've got Keith Wheels, Titan Suspension Australia, Jet LEDs, AK Racing, KCK Lubricants, Tintercar Milton, Inov, which is a camera system. I've got HRX Racewear, which does all my merchandise. So if anyone wants to pick up any merchandise, let me know, and I can help provide those costs to where to get them. I've got Motegi Racing with Wheel Pros. They were a huge one. They supply wheels to me, and the list just continuously grows, and it's just fantastic that I'm able to do this and get out there on the track and represent all these brands and go, at AVO, at Wheel Pros, at Keith Wheels, at, KCK Lubricants. And they share the same passion that I do, and they can see that I share the same passion. And, I'm talking to companies that are at the top level of the games, like Wheel Pros is a huge company. They sponsor drivers like Chaz Mostert, Will Brown. And I'm in that realm of that, which is just incredible. And I'm so thankful I get to have the opportunity to be able to do this.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Lachlan. I really do appreciate you jumping on the show and having a chat about your motorsport career so far. And remember, guys, I'll put a link to his Instagram in the description. And just remember, drive fast and take chances safely, of course.
Yeah, exactly.